Hey guys, I'm Johan, behind me is Sean. Today we're going to be talking about the Lynx. Okay guys, so today we're going to be talking about the M113's younger brother, the Lynx. The Lynx is a light, rapid reconnaissance vehicle that was used by the Canadian Airborne Division and also by the Army in the Netherlands. But if you'll come around with me, we'll talk a bit about the vehicle and we'll go see our special guest for this video. The Lynx is actually made out of a magnesium alloy, which allows it to be extremely light and air-droppable. But the problem with this is that magnesium is extremely flammable, so if you take a hit from, say, a rocket-propelled grenade, you're in for a really bad time. Now, continuing on, we can see that like the M113, it's got road wheels on the side. What's different, though, is that it's only got 4 instead of 5. So let's continue on to the back where we'll meet our special guest. Okay, so now we're at the back of the vehicle. We're here with our special guest. This is Bryan from the Ontario Regiment Museum, who's not only in charge of maintaining this, or one of the guys in charge of maintaining this vehicle, but he's also our driver for the day. So Larry, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, sir.
Yeah. So Larry, I understand you're in period reenacting gear.
Yes, this is the Canadian 1st Canadian Battalion Airborne's well, I can't say reenactment gear, but it's their actual uniform that they would have used right up to the mid-80s before they were disbanded. It's actually fairly correct, and it would have been right in line with this particular vehicle that they would have used.
Yeah. So Larry, since we're back here, can you just run us through the mechanics, since you probably know this better than I do?
Absolutely. So what we're going to do here is this is an access door for the engine, the transmission, and the transfer case. I'm going to open it up, and as you can see, it's quite large, but that's because it used a secret compartment for either extra tools, gear, equipment that they would use to maintain and maintenance this vehicle. Inside the vehicle itself, you'll see that it's got 2 huge belts on either side. The left 2 belts were on a tensor pulley, which actually ran the fan for cooling underneath the air cooler or the radiator for the vehicle. On the right side would run the generator, would connect all the power and the power for the engine and the electrical systems. And as you look further back, you'll see 2 different dipsticks. One is for the transfer case to check your oil fluid, and then the one on the very back was for engine oil, and further up front is for the transmission, which we can't see, but that was a very difficult job to check the transmission because you had to do it when it was running. The 2 blue canisters right here are primary and secondary fuel filters for the actual diesel fuel that runs through the system. Close the door and we'll go up to the front or to the side. After you.
Yeah. Okay guys, we're actually back here on the side because I've got some questions for you, Larry. So first of all, one of the things I noticed is that we've got some snow grousers here. Obviously they're for gaining more traction in snowy conditions, but can you tell me how they were employed on the vehicle?
Yes, Johan. The Grousers were used, one row would be for one side of the vehicle, and this row would probably be for this side of the vehicle. And inadvertently, they'd put it in the track at different intervals on the track and attach it so that they could get traction in either snow, and of course even in the spring and in the fall when it was muddy and rainy. So really, basically they were used for 3 parts of the season of the year. And they were very effective at keeping the vehicle from getting stuck.
Another question I've got is, I understand this is an amphibious vehicle, but what are some of the preparations or design features that are on this vehicle for that type of maneuvering?
Well, if you look at the track very carefully, they've got little paddles on each track. And they would also have, these holes would indicate that it had a swim skirt that would be attached to the side of the vehicle, which creates a void between the hull and the track, on the outside of the track. And as the track rolled through the water, it would create a suction up inside and give it buoyancy as it traveled along the water at 6 kilometers an hour.
Yeah. And just one final question. Can you explain to me what all these markings are? I noticed there's some parachute markings over there, so do they mean drops or operations?
Absolutely, Johan. Yes, each maple leaf with a chute would indicate a drop of this vehicle from an airborne airplane. Also, it has the year it was produced and issued, and then it has its Canadian Forces CFR. So that would be its registration. The leaf indicates Canada, of course, and the numbers in the B would be a battalion or it could be a section, but 69B could refer to like a company.
Okay, so let's continue on to the front.
Yep. Oh, Johan, did you want to talk about the track?
Right, that's a good suggestion. One of the things we forgot to, one of the things I'll have you introduce since you know more than me. Can you tell us about the track?
The track is very unique because it's very different from the American track. It's called Clack Track, and the height of the track would be kept a lot lower than the American version because we wanted some slack in it, and it functioned better that way. It actually would clean itself as it went over terrain and roads and dirt, and even if it picked up mud, it would take about 70 to 75% of the debris off of it because it clacked as it went.
So let's continue on to the front now. Okay guys, so now we're at the front of the vehicle. So as you can see, it's a bit like a mini version of an M113. We've got the familiar IR lights and normal headlights, as well as the smoke grenade launchers. But what's obviously different is the difference in height. So Larry, why don't you tell me about some of the other differences I've missed out on? One of the things I've noticed is that the flotation screen is actually a different shape and design from the M113.
Absolutely. The reason for this flotation design was because the vehicle is such a low profile, they needed something with a little bit different angle, and the mechanics of the actual bow plane would push the water in a different direction. And as you open this up, you can see that it would extend to the same position as the 113 APC, but this is completely different from the actual grade. And the purpose behind that was to push the water, not just separate the water. So it separates and pushes it a little bit quicker to get it away because it's such a lower profile coming into the water.
Yeah.
So we'll drop this. And of course, inside here is your final drives. This is your access panel. Much lighter than the 113, but it has the same drive as the 113. Your main drive, and then your two final drives left and right. And all the drives plus the final drives have a check dipstick for oil levels.
Now I noticed you've also got disc brakes in here, so are they just for braking or do they do other stuff as well?
Yes, Johan, and they're very similar, if not the same, as the APC 113. So the function is exactly the same. Inside the driver's compartment you have two tillers. If you pull back on both, it engages both discs, which stops the vehicle. If you release left and pull on right, it'll engage the right disc, which will turn the vehicle right, and vice versa in the other direction.
Right.
I guess we'll close it up.
We'll close it up. And I understand there were more markings on this vehicle that you wanted to tell me about.
Yes, very much like World War II, individual crews like to mark their vehicles up. Now, it started with aircraft, bombers of course, and fighter planes, but as the time went on in the post-era, a lot of vehicle crews in the modern Army like to mark their vehicles. Of course, you have your registration, the year it was produced, but the Airborne always had a very distinctive emblem which they love to put on the front of the vehicles, sometimes on the back. Of course, Canadian flag indicating Canadian. But on the driver's side of the compartment of the vehicle, a lot of drivers and crews used to lovingly try to name their vehicles so that they could identify them in a row, not just by the CFR numbers. And this one here is lovingly named the Pink Panther.
Okay, thanks a lot, Larry.
You're very welcome. I hope you enjoyed your time here at the museum.
Yeah, for sure. I guess it's time to pass it on to Sean, who's up at the top, and you can show us the internals of the vehicle.
Absolutely.
Right, so that's enough of Johan. If you'll come right on up here.
Okay, so how we get up on this vehicle is 1 foot on the track, which is your right, and then swing up with both hands, left foot up here, kitty corner across, and straight up.
Right, so now I remember that this was a 3-man crew, so if you could tell us a little bit about each of the positions, that'd be lovely.
Sure, Sean, let's get at it. Okay, so the first position was the driver's position, and as you can look inside to the driver's position, it had a telescoping seat. So the seat would go down to be able to drive inside with the latch closed, look through the viewfinders, and if you're driving with the hatch open, you would have to raise the seat to its highest position, or depending on the height of your body, and your head would stick out. As we move around to the center of the driving position, we have 2 tillers, and the 2 tillers are for steering and braking. To the left of that is the actual instrument panel, which has all your gauges for RPMs of the engine, miles per hour for the vehicle. It would have battery charge, how high it would be, which would be your amps, and then of course you'd have other indications like your fuel levels and your oil pressures and temperature, which is very important to the vehicle. As you went to the right hand side, you would have your shift levers and your shutoff valves. And down center on the floor, next to the left foot, would be a brace for your left foot for actually keeping yourself in position. And to the right would actually be the actual fuel throttle, which is quite large. There's a middle panel with all these idiot switches in there, and those would be indications for problems like over temperature, lack of oil, engine problems, and they would light up and tell you either to shut off or to continue on. So we've just moved from the driver's position of the vehicle into the crew commander at the moment to explain the actual communications department, which is the communications officer, which is in this position just underneath you. That position would hold several different radios, mostly for communicating with other vehicles or actually command base. The gentleman in the crew commander position would actually indicate what he's found in his reconnaissance missions, relay it through his headset to the communications officers, and his responsibility would be to relay that information to command. He also had a position of left side of the vehicle and the rear. His responsibilities were to make sure that it was clear on the left and what was coming up on the rear. And that's why you have the different heights of the telescopic lenses, which would indicate he could look frontward, sideways, and in behind him. Now in the crewman's position, it had a big 50 caliber mount for a 50 caliber machine gun. It was all done by inside the turret with a couple of switches for the triggers, and they were connected wirely, so this stayed stationary, never moved around. It actually traversed with the actual turret itself. And so the turret would be run by 2 levers. One would be to run the gun back and forth, up and down, and the other one would be run the turret back and forth. And this would be your firing trigger right here. You could fire this 50 caliber from inside through all these view glasses, or you could move your seat up and fire from outside, and that's why I had the big iron sights to see what you're shooting at. So there you are. This is what your 3-man crew vehicle would look like on the inside. So come on out. They're never very easy to get out of. You always have to swing your feet out. And at 50, it's a little hard.
Right guys, that's about it for this video. If you like this video, feel free to hit that like button. If you like what we're doing, feel free to subscribe to us for our future videos. And if there's something we did wrong or you think we should change up, feel free to leave a comment below. That's the only way we'll know what you're thinking. Personally, I'd like to know if you guys like it when we do such long videos, or if we should make multiple short videos on one vehicle, or just keep our videos under 10 minutes. As well, thanks to the Ontario Regiment Museum, as well as Bryan, who's a volunteer there, You guys might want to think about donating some money to that museum or even giving them a visit. They're the largest one in Canada. They're the largest tank museum in Canada, and they're located in Oshawa, Ontario. Anyways, that's enough of me. See you guys next time.